All right. So for this step of the process, I am just taping the entire surface of the mold to try to get a uniform mold surface, avoiding any wrinkles that we can, making sure that we get into any crack and crevice. You can see some of the difficulty parts on some of the body lines and in that nose, but that nose will not be a part of this mold in the full scale. Seems about it for this part. So I'm getting started here using the partial paste. This is a little different than the paste that I brought in from the shop. The stuff I brought in is high temp wax. We're going to apply it a lot like car wax, where you wipe on, leave on for a little bit, and then wipe back off, leaving just a little bit of a film behind. And this is going to be our release agent. So you can see here my dad is currently just wiping on the paste, and then he's going to try and go on heavy for the first part, and then I'll come in with another cotton rag and wipe up the excess to leave a uniform part. Can't do too much, don't want to do too little. It's an important step, but it's kind of built into the part that we have the tape here, so that the tape also helps with the release. This part is just me removing some of the excess wax and making sure that there's not too much on the part.
Now you just let it air dry for 10-15 minutes and you'll be ready to start placing the material.
So for this step, we're just sizing up the cloth to the actual part, kind of just eyeball measuring it and cutting it to the right size, but again, the right contours, making sure that we catch all the folds and stuff the right way. Obviously, the larger piece you can use for one part is better. You don't want to make more cuts than you need to, but it's more important to have the right contours, making sure it sits down flat.
All right, so when you put the material in there, you want to cut it to where there's a decent overlap. So the strength in all the material is when it overlaps each other. So if you run the two pieces of material together, you're not going to get any strength. So you need a little bit of overlap to carry that strength.
So this is the final product of after we have cut all the cloth and the material into the right size. We're just holding up to make sure that everything fits the way we want it to, overlapping in the right spots. Some parts we know we're going to have to kind of go on the fly, which is fine. You just want to be able to prepare and account for everything beforehand. For this part, we are just using a little brush to be able to tap out all the resin onto the part. This will kind of help to hold the part in place while we're going along. We will be using a adhesive spray to help hold this too, but this is just going to help add to the process. You can see in Nate's right hand two rollers that are going to be used to move the material around. It's going to work kind of similar to like a squeegee on a epoxy part, just moving the resin from one spot to the other and not having to use too much. Right there, you can see the technique my dad's using to actually put the material onto the resin onto the material without moving the material too much. It takes a little bit of like handiwork. It's not going to pretend like it's rocket science, but it is nice to like teach yourself how to do it, get a little bit of a trial run with it, and then you'll see us move on to cutting out the material and putting it on the same way. But instead of having the material already in place, it will be wet out beforehand and put onto there. The first layer of applying the resin is going to be the heaviest layer, because you can assume that everything you put on top of it is just going to be soaking through. So you can see him not really worrying too much, trying to use gravity to let the resin run down into the mold, and just really making sure he has everything in place before we really go heavy with the rest of it.
You'll see like right here, like I'm pushing this material down and it's pulling right in here. That's something that's why it's important to get your materials cut to the right shape. You know, when you're doing this stuff like this, it's pulling right there. So cut into the proper shape, it's a lot easier to work with.
So for this step, we are just applying some more of the cloth to the back tail of the section. This is the part that we have to cut out and kind of paste into there as we go. We'll be doing the exact same thing with the other material, the more thicker stuff, and it will pretty much follow the exact same process. For this step, we are just laying out the material onto a piece of cardboard and then wetting it out before we put it onto the actual part. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we have everything actually bleeded through. So you can do multiple layers like this if you think it's going to work out properly, but it doesn't really matter. You can do it one by one individually. He's doing this for a lot of the parts where he doesn't think he can get a brush up in there and actually apply it as he goes. And in the background, you can see Nate cutting out some parts for me for the tail section. So for this step, we're just rolling out with a brush the last layer of glass, trying to get it to all kind of get smooth and fleshed out how we like. So for this part, we are taking the thicker material. We call this matte. We're just going to be using this as kind of like the coarser material, although it's really not. It's just kind of our substitute here. We're going to be layering this one. Normally, we'd be layering this in between two pieces of like cloth or a more uniform material. But for this one, this is just going to be the inside because it ultimately doesn't matter with glass. But that is what we'll be doing for the car.
Okay. We'll grind these edges off right here, and then we'll be able to demold it.
This is the final prog, and you can see that we'll just we'll need to trim up and grind away some of the edges. But once we let it cure, it should be pretty much done. All you need to do is break apart the mold and extract the actual part.